Tonight, Ashley Judd uncovers an unexpected legacy.
You are kidding me.
Grounded in faith.
He's like a religious refugee.
He is exactly what he is.
Resilience.
He was a prisoner of war twice.
Holy cow.
And strength.
When he goes down with this wound, he is well into enemy territory.
That brings her closer to her family.
That is unbelievable.
In ways she never could have imagined.
Each of these snippets of the story are absolutely life-changing.
Emmy and Golden Globe-nominated actress and humanitarian Ashley Judd has over 20 film and Broadway credits to her name. Ashley currently makes her home outside Nashville with her husband, race car driver Dario Franchitti. Her mother, Naomi, and sister Winona are the legendary country music duo, the Judds. And Ashley is an 8th-generation Kentuckian on her mother's side.
I grew up with such an emphasis on the Judd narrative. I know so much about my mom's side of the family, and I can rattle off all these last names and follow those family trees quite far back. I would love to know more about my dad's side of the family. I had the amazing good fortune of spending every summer growing up with my dad's folks, my mama, Mary Bernadine Dalton, and my papa, Michael Lawrence Simonella, as well as my mama's mother, Effie Copley, whom we called Granny. I've got really good information about my papa Simonella and that classic immigrant story, Sicilians in particular. I know very little about my mama's side. I have a lot of curiosity about how her people came here, how they lived. I'd be really interested in knowing about the role that faith played in their lives. I mean, my own faith is really important to me. And now that I have, for some years, been working very actively as a feminist social justice activist in human rights and public health, I've started to become curious about whether or not there was anyone else in my family who agitated for reform, who fought for the poor and the exploited and the disempowered. It would be really interesting to know more, and a really good place to start would be, I think, with my dad in Louisville, Kentucky.
Ashley.
Hi, Dad. So today I am seeing new treasures.
Yes.
So this picture is really interesting to me because this is Mama.
Right.
With her mother. So she's my great-grandmother. Did you call her Granny? What did you call her?
I called her Granny, and her name was Effie.
And what I remember about her is that she had, you know, those deep-set eyes.
Yes. One of the things that Mom talked about was that there was a line that goes up into New England someplace, and I don't know much about that. One of the other myths that Mama talked about was that her great-grandfather fought in the Civil War.
Great, my triple great-grandfather.
Right. He was Elijah Hislop, fought for the Union, lost a limb, a leg, ended up in prison.
Why was he in a prison?
Because he got caught.
Would you imagine that some of that information is available online?
Let's look under military.
H-E-N-S-L-E-Y.
Right. Civil War records and profiles. Oh my goodness. Elijah Hislop.
39th Kentucky Infantry. I just got some information that's very much in keeping with what I was hoping to start to uncover. My next destination is Frankfort, Kentucky, which is our state capital, to look at military records to see what more I can learn about Elijah Hislop. Okay. is amazing. Elijah Hislop, Company I, 39th Kentucky Infantry. Joined for duty at the age of 18. Wow. This is just the most amazing thing ever. I'm finding a lot of records, but what I'd really like are the stories that go with these documents, so I'm meeting with historian Brian McKnight. So, my triple great-grandfather, Elijah Hislop, he enlisted on the 2nd of November, and by this company muster roll, he was captured the 4th day of December 1862, 32 days later. What is that about?
Well, in the research I've done on the Civil War in Eastern Kentucky, what you have is what is generally called a skirmish. In this skirmish, many Union soldiers were captured that day. So where he most likely was in a prison in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay. May, June, 1863, present.
He's present again, right?
He's present again,
he's
so
made
he's
it
back. How did was he rescued or turned loose?
As far as I can tell, he was freed in a broad exchange of Kentucky prisoners in the middle of May 1863.
So he was held approximately 5 to 6 months.
Right.
So he's still present March, April, 64. July, August, 64, present. September, October, 64, absent.
Yes. So he was a prisoner of war twice.
So what happened?
ASHLEY Judd is in Frankfort, Kentucky, on a mission to find out what happened to her third great-grandfather after he was captured and imprisoned a second time during the Civil War.
So he's wounded, October 2nd, 1864, Battle of Saltville, Virginia, prisoner.
Yes.
What do you know about the Battle of Saltville?
Saltville is notable because it supplied a great amount of salt to the Confederacy. And without salt, you don't preserve meat, and without preserving meat, you don't preserve men.
Keeping troops fed during the Civil War was a constant challenge. Before refrigeration, meat and other perishable goods were preserved with salt. A main source of the Confederate Army's supply was in Saltville, where Union General Burbridge marched Elijah Hislop's 39th on October 2nd, 1864. Despite outnumbering the Confederates, the Union ran low on ammunition and retreated overnight, signaling a surprising Confederate victory. 2 months later, the Union finally took Saltville, contributing to the breakdown of the Confederacy and the end of the Civil War.
The last muster roll gives his discharge date, June 65, discharged by reason of disability, quite possibly from battle injury. My dad told me that my great-grandmother told him that he lost a leg. Now, maybe that's here.
Possibly so.
And then it still says age 18. Now, why is that?
He apparently didn't age.
So that's where the good genes come from. It started with Elijah Hislop.
No, by 1865, I would estimate it was safe for him to tell them what his real age was. Which means when he joined in 1862, he was probably about 15 years old. Not uncommon at all.
Wow. After Saltville, it appears he was hurt. So maybe that's where the story that my granny used to tell my dad about Elijah Hislop having lost a leg in the Civil War factors in. I'm heading to Saltville, Virginia to meet with a Civil War medical expert. I'd like to find out more about the wound he sustained and what would have happened to him after he was hurt. So I'm meeting with George Wunderlich at a Civil War-era replica cabin.
Hi, I'm Ashley.
How are you today? Very pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Come right on in.
My triple great-grandfather, Elijah Hislop, came to Virginia to fight in Saltville.
Okay.
He was injured, and there is a family story that his injury either was or resulted in an amputated leg.
These records are going to give you the date of injury and a little more information.
Okay. So this says, wounded October 2nd, 1864. That's here at
That's here.
Saltville. Date of operation, immediately after. Done on field, near scene of action. Operation amputation of right thigh through lower third, apparently by circular flap method.
That's correct.
So that would have been a battlefield
It would have
amputation?
been a battlefield amputation. Let me show you how this goes.
That sounds...
It sounds about like you expect. First of all, when you talk about the mechanism of injury, we're talking about a mini ball. And there's your mini ball. As the bullet is deforming, it causes breakage, it causes cracking. And if you think about it, amputation was not something that doctors did out of ignorance. They did it because it was the best way to save a life. It doesn't get any better. While it is definitely, and I don't want to downplay it, this is gruesome stuff. This basically is how we do it today. So this was much better than you might think. Once they had made the determination to remove the limb, they would have placed a tourniquet on. Would you like me to demonstrate this on you? If you want to put your leg up, we've got a nice little stool right here. I can actually demonstrate for you. All right, so obviously the first thing that I'm going to have to do is we're going to put this around your leg. Now, I'll just give you a little, feel how it's tightening? Mm-hmm. When I get it tight enough, we're going to be able to actually stop all the blood flow. I'm then going to take a capital knife like this one. I'm going to reach around the leg and make a single cut all the way around. That's the circular part. Now, with a flap, what I'm looking to do is I'm actually going to take that skin that I've cut and I'm going to fold it back.
So that
And
you
that's
have
going to
enough
give me
skin
something to cover the wound with, exactly. After I've cut the bone off, the muscle will extend past the end of the bone, so it'll give you a cushion. Obviously, once I've made my 2 cuts, I've got to come in with a saw. And the surgeon is literally going to cut right through.
How long would the amputation have taken?
12 minutes or less.
And how was the equipment sterilized?
It wasn't. This was state of the art at the time, and actually this saved a lot of lives. It really and truly did. And your great-great-great-grandfather is one, obviously, that survived because of this treatment. His surgeon left him when the Army had to pull out, leaving the men behind, and then they fell into the care of the Confederate Army.
I think the part that touches me the most is how psychologically strong and resilient he must have been. To have survived being a prisoner of war once, and while there's a battle going on around him, he can hear having a leg amputated and coming to knowing that his regiment has left and he's just waiting to be taken prisoner of war a second time.
Yeah. These were heroes.
That's a lot to think about.
My triple great-grandfather, Elijah Hensley, was facing Confederate prison again, this time after a battlefield amputation. I know he survived because I'm here, but he must have been so concerned about life after war in prison with only one leg. At 17 years old, to have been dealt such a life-changing injury must have been overwhelming. Now, I would really like to know what Elijah Hensley's life was like after the Civil War. And I'm heading back to my hotel where Professor Brian McKnight has left me some information that hopefully has answers I'm looking for.
Ashley, I thought you might be interested in this.
ASHLEY JUDD is in Saltville, Virginia, where she just learned the details of how her ancestor, Elijah Hensley, lost a leg in the Civil War.
Professor Brian McKnight, who I met at the Kentucky Archives, sent me information he found in my third great-grandfather's Union Army pension file.
Elijah Hensley was born February 22nd, 1847. Oh, this is like just almost too much. Elijah Hensley was about 15 years old when he decided to take up arms in defense of his country in 1862. He was honorably discharged at Camp Chase, Ohio, June 20th, 1865, leaving the Army with a record of which any man might well be proud. For the past 8 years, he has been successfully engaged in the master's work, masters with a capital M, in the Methodist Church. He is a highly respected citizen of Inez, Kentucky, near which place he is engaged in farming. That is unbelievable. I'm just flabbergasted at the strength and the resilience. I just don't even have words for it. What you went through and the strength that you had to get through it. You were a one-legged farmer. My God, that's amazing. Having this material is just a phenomenal gift. It's phenomenal. And to be able to have this detail is just exquisite. It really tells a remarkable story. I know that my people on both sides of the family have very deep roots in Eastern Kentucky, but we must have come from somewhere. When I started researching my dad's side of the family, he mentioned that we might have some New England roots, and so I'm going to try to pursue that family line. I'm going to go poke around New England and see what I can find. I'm starting at the New England Historic Genealogical Society in Boston, Massachusetts. Somewhat to my chagrin. It sounds very Yankee.
Hi, Ashley.
Are you Josh?
I am Josh.
Josh, it's so lovely to meet you.
It's nice to meet you, Ashley.
And what I'm here today in particular to take a look at is the family story that we have some sort of a New England line through my grandmother, Mary Bernadine Dalton.
Okay, and her mother was Effie Copley, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, so we're actually gonna transfer over to Effie Copley's husband, who was William H. Dalton.
Right, okay, so Bill Dalton,
So that makes William Dalton my great-grandfather, and Josh goes on to tell me that William's father was Thomas Jefferson Dalton, and his mother was Rebecca Dalton.
And so I have a record for you to look at here. This is actually Rebecca's death record.
Okay. Rebecca Dalton, place of birth, Logan County, West Virginia. Name of her parents, E. and E. Brewster? This name means nothing to me.
Okay, so Brewster is actually a huge New England name.
Wee.
And when you see Brewster on a family tree, you immediately think New England. And so I have a little surprise for you. Now, I will let you undo it if you'd like.
Is this a family tree?
It possibly is a family tree. You're in a genealogical society, after all.
Okay.
Unroll the tree.
God, this is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Holy cow.
So here there's you, of course.
C'est moi.
And there is your grandmother. And there is Effie. And there's Bill Dalton. And so there's that Thomas Jefferson Dalton spoke about. And there's Rebecca Brewster.
Okay.
And so we head up the tree to William Brewster.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 13 counting me.
Yes.
12 generations back. William Brewster, born 24 January 1566 or 7 in England. He lived in Scrooby, Nottingham, was a gentleman, bailiff to the Archbishop of York. So he immigrated in 1620 and he died in April of 1644, curiously, in Massachusetts.
That's correct. So what does 1620 mean to you? I saw your eyes light up, so you're familiar with it.
Well, I remember being in the 3rd grade, you know, and learning about a certain boat loaded with some folks seeking religious freedom, going to what was called the New World. And are you telling me that my ancestor, William Brewster, came over on the Mayflower?
ASHLEY Judd is in Boston, Massachusetts, where she's just found out there is truth to the family rumor of New England roots. But that's not all.
Are you telling me that my ancestor, William Brewster, came over on the Mayflower?
It's a possibility. The Mayflower came in 1620, which would mean that if William Brewster was on the Mayflower, he's actually going to be one of the first settlers in New England. Now, the one thing that we can check is called the Mayflower Compact. When they got off the boat in November in 1620, they signed a letter of agreement. It was basically kind of how they would govern themselves. And so if someone signed the Mayflower Compact, they were obviously part of the Mayflower. And so I actually have, the original is lost, but I have a 1772 history of New England that has a copy of it in it. So we can check and see if William Brewster's there.
Completely blowing my mind. You know, I call myself a Sicilian hillbilly, rabble-rouser. So now I'm gonna have to potentially call myself a Mayflower hillbilly, Sicilian rabble-rouser.
Potentially, yes. All right, so I'm gonna give you a pair of gloves so that we can look at this.
This is amazing. Okay, this is...
So here we have the Mayflower Compact. So we'll open up, and I will actually let you sort of page through to the marker there.
And I will be looking for William Brewster, John Carver, William Bradford, Edward Winslow. William Brewster. You are kidding me. I am dumbstruck.
So there were 102 passengers on the Mayflower, and only 60% survived that first year. And so, you know, William Brewster, of course, is one of those who survived.
I can't wait to learn more about him. Like, why did he want to come over?
You know, we know that some of the Pilgrims were seeking religious freedom in the colonies, and so that's certainly something that you could investigate. Looking at the chart here, you know that he was a gentleman and he was a bailiff to the Archbishop of York. And so I'm actually going to recommend that you go to York, England, and see what you can find out about William Brewster and answer some of those questions.
York, England. I've learned some information that I think I can genuinely characterize as life-changing. My people came over on the Mayflower. On the Mayflower. To my complete amazement, I'm on my way to York, England. I'm especially curious to find out why William Brewster would have left his homeland to sail on the Mayflower. Many of the people who sailed on the Mayflower did so seeking religious freedom. You know, and how did he make the decision to travel on a very perilous journey with no guarantee of anyone surviving? That's a huge risk to take. Whatever I can learn about him, I would love to learn. Hi, I'm ASHLEY.
Hi, I'm Bill Shields. Pleased to meet you.
So, Professor, what I know is that William Brewster was a gentleman.
That's right.
And that he was bailiff to the Archbishop of York.
That's right.
So I'd love to know more about that.
So being a bailiff meant looking after the Archbishop's affairs. So it's quite an important job and would help to give him the title of gentleman, I think, as well, which he's known as. You said he's a gent. He went to Cambridge, too, and that makes you a gentleman in the 16th century. So he didn't graduate, but he spent his time there. So he's quite well connected in that way. And so he's in Scrooby in the 1590s, working for the Archbishop. Scrooby is a part of the world where there's always been quite a bit of radical religion.
Nice.
Right? Okay, you like that?
Yeah,
okay?
love the radicals.
The Puritans, really. And although he's the Archbishop's bailiff, Brewster is attracted to this, especially for its emphasis on preaching and on the biblical message. So it's quite disruptive socially and politically as well as religiously.
So I have an ancestor who was disruptive socially and politically.
You do.
This does not surprise me.
You do, you do. He's a central figure in this group of Puritan radicals around the area, and that's when he begins to get to the attention of the authorities. By 1607, he's summoned to a court headed up by the Archbishop. Here we are. There's William Brewster.
Oh, okay. This is pretty difficult to read.
I'm going to now look at the transcription. Office of the Lord against William Brewster of Scrooby, Gent. Information is given that he is a Bowanist?
Yeah, Boronist, a Brownist. Yes.
A Brownist?
Brownists are separatists. These aren't just radicals. These are people who think the Church of England is irredeemable and not a church, and they want to separate completely from it.
The Church of England was founded in 1534 when Henry VIII broke away from the Catholic Church. In the years that followed, England was marred by religious discord. By the early 1600s, the Brownists, a separatist group, were gaining notoriety by openly criticizing the morals and ethics of the Church of England.
Now, William Brewster is summoned into court.
But he did not appear. Then the Lords Commissioner aforesaid, on account of his manifest contempt, further decreed an attachment or summons,
That's right.
should be issued for the apprehension of the said William Brewster. He is in trouble with the law.
Trouble. That's right. This is really serious. 2 weeks later, the court reassembles, and they're anticipating
William Brewster to face his charges.
Yeah, alongside another of his associates. So we've got here the court, there's a meeting here in York.
An attachment was awarded to Mr. Blanchard to apprehend them, but he certifieth that he cannot find them, nor understand where they are. So they've gone into hiding.
They've gone into hiding. That's when the trail goes cold.
So does William Brewster show up on any records back in Scrooby ever again?
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. That's it. That's all we know.
So he's like a religious refugee.
He is exactly what he is. He's a refugee.
Wow.
All right? But the obvious thing for Brewster to do would be to leave the jurisdiction of the Archbishop of York, because once he moves out of that jurisdiction, they've got to start a whole new process from another jurisdiction, so he buys him time. I think probably the other great center of radical religion in Lincolnshire is Boston, and I think probably that's your next port of call.
Boston, Lincolnshire.
Boston, Lincolnshire, yes.
The trail here in York goes cold in 1607 for William Brewster. I'd like to see if he was able to find refuge in Boston, England. I know he doesn't leave on the Mayflower until 1620, so there's still a lot of story to track down for those years before William Brewster set sail. I'm heading to the Boston Lincolnshire Guild Hall, which is a source of history for this area, to see if they have any information about William Brewster's time here.
Unbelievable. In these cells, William Bradford, William Brewster. Wow. Afterwards known as the Pilgrim Fathers, were imprisoned on the 23rd September, 1607, after attempting to escape to religious freedom. So this is the jail cell in which he would have been held. I don't even know what to say. It's really interesting to try to figure all this out.
Wow.
Because they're looking for him in York in December 1607, but he has already been found and imprisoned in Lincolnshire earlier in 1607. So he is well familiar with the trouble he is in and the consequences of his religious disobedience. But I don't know how long he was in jail. I'm gonna have to just keep digging and find out more information.
ASHLEY Judd is in Boston, England, tracking down her ancestor William Brewster's path before he set sail on the Mayflower to the New World.
Now that I've seen William Brewster's name outside the jail cell in which he was held for sharing his beliefs, I have so many questions. Thankfully, I'm meeting with a Pilgrim expert, author Nick Bunker. I've obviously seen the prison cells downstairs.
But you probably don't know what the circumstances were in which he ended up in those cells.
Right.
And that's why we have with us another document which I think can help you further down the path of understanding.
History of the Plymouth Plantation, written by William Bradford,
You just saw his name on the
cellmate.
plaque downstairs, absolutely right. And what you're looking at now is a description of the events that led up to the incarceration of William Brewster in the cells that you saw downstairs.
Being thus constrained to leave their native
Soil
and country, ports
and havens
were
shut against them.
Oh. Okay, so in 1607, they were already seriously contemplating leaving England, and they wanted to go.
Absolutely, because that was when the Archbishop of York made it very clear indeed that he intended to crack down on separatism very hard in their area. So really they had no option but to find some escape route, and this was the best place that they could find to come.
So ports and havens were shut against them.
Technically, you needed to have a license from the government in London if you were going to leave the country. And of course, they wouldn't have been able to apply for a license because, of course, they were already effectively fugitives.
There was a large company of them that hired a ship, wholly to themselves, and made agreement with the master to be ready at a certain day. But when he had them and their goods aboard, he betrayed them. Wow. They were presented to the magistrates. After a month's imprisonment, the greatest part were dismissed and sent to the places from whence they came. But 7 of the principal were still kept in prison, and so William Brewster was one of the 7 principals.
Oh, definitely, yes.
So for about how long was he in prison in this building?
Well, several months. Generally speaking, though, conditions in Jacobean prisons at this period were pretty awful. And of course, many prisoners died in prison. Jail fever was a common complaint, but it doesn't appear that he was ever actually put on trial. He was clearly released. For whatever reason, we're not entirely sure.
Huh. Do you have any idea where he went from here?
He went into hiding, that's clear. Somehow or other, though, he got over to Holland during the course of 1608. In Holland, they could enjoy a degree of religious freedom because the Dutch did not have an official state church. There were already a number of English Puritan and separatist exiles in the same city in Amsterdam, several hundred. So they had paved the way, if you like, for the pilgrims.
So if he spent 12 years in Holland, between 1608 and 1620 is a long period of time before he sails on the Mayflower. Where should I go next?
Well, you don't actually have to go to Holland. What you can do is simply head southwards towards Cambridge, specifically Trinity College, Cambridge, where I think you'll find they have some material that will take you a little bit further.
It seems as though William Brewster narrowly escaped death in multiple ways. Knowing that I had an ancestor who was incarcerated for his faith is something that I think it's going to take time for me to truly process. Religious tolerance is incredibly important to me. And also that passion that William Brewster clearly had to even become a prisoner and possibly a martyr is something I really respect. Each of these snippets of the story are absolutely life-changing. I think that it would be fitting to go to Cambridge University, where my 10 times great-grandfather was a student and was probably exposed initially to the ideas that radicalized his faith. Naturally, I'd like to find out what the ultimate motivation was for William Brewster's trip on the Mayflower, so I'm meeting with Professor Anthony Milton. Well, I understand that you may have some answers to a series of questions I have about William Brewster, whom I know escaped to Holland. So What do you know about his time in Holland?
This is a collection of letters from the English ambassador to the Netherlands, Sir Dudley Carleton. He's reporting back to the Secretary of State of King James, and he's reporting on events in the Netherlands in 1619.
And withal I sent your honor a book called Perth Assembly, of which finding many copies dispersed at Leiden, I had reason to suspect it was printed in that town. Yet in search after that book, I have discovered the printer of another, and that is one William Brewster, a Brownist, who has had of Perth Assembly sent over into England and Scotland. Okay, so what this is saying is that he may not have been the author and the printer of the Perth Assembly, but he's been distributing it. And he's been managing to send copies to Scotland and England.
That's right. Take a look at a final letter from Carleton describing an attempt to seize Brewster.
In my last, I advertised your honor that Brewster was taken at Leiden, which proved an error, and that the constable, who was employed by the magistrates for his apprehension, being a dull, drunken fellow, took one man for another.
That's right. So this is a little bit later. They seem to think for a second they'd caught Brewster, but they hadn't. They'd caught his colleague, Thomas Brewer. But that is where the trail goes cold. What we do know is that while he's in London, he is able to arrange transportation, royally approved by King James. So the next time we hear of Brewster, he's heading off from Plymouth to New England, presumably a very relieved man.
It's a lot to take on board. You know, part of what I was reflecting on, the American idea inheres in his story. Everything is implicated. All of our basic freedoms that we, value and in many instances take for granted in America inhere. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, separation of church and state.
That's right.
Thank you so much for your time. When I initially found out that I was descendant from folks who came over on the Mayflower, I thought, I'm so American, I'm English. But I'm actually so English, I'm American. I think that it would be fitting to go to William Brewster's final departure point from England, Plymouth, and there I'll meet my dad and do a major brain dump about everything I've learned.
ASHLEY Judd is in Plymouth, England, where her ancestor, William Brewster, set sail for the New World on the Mayflower.
Welcome to Plymouth.
I'm really thrilled my dad is joining me here on the last leg of my journey exploring his mother's genealogy.
Oh, my goodness.
When Granny was telling you as a little boy
Yes.
that we had a New England line,
Right.
we actually are from the line that founded New England.
Our ancestors.
Yeah.
Unfathomable.
There was a very great family called the Brewsters.
Brewsters.
And William Brewster was my 10 times great-grandfather, your 9 times great-grandfather. And he was on a ship called the Mayflower.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That excites me. I mean, the thread that you have followed is the fabric of our country.
What's interesting about knowing these stories is that they're so validating of my experience of myself. Knowing that William and Mary Brewster had such extraordinary faith, it is so psychologically imprinted in the narrative of my family. William Brewster is not our only remarkable ancestor. How do I even tell you about Elijah Hensley? He was described in local documents as being engaged in
You found documents on him?
Totally! Like, that's so last week. Two of my ancestors having been wrongly imprisoned and under abominable conditions may have been informing all along in my lifetime my absolutely furious, passionate need for social justice.
Our ancestors were made of pretty sturdy stuff.
Definitely, a very principled lot.
On both sides. This is magnificent. I am so thrilled that you have been able to do this. and excited to pursue it further with you.
Well, thanks for getting me started.
Oh, you're more than welcome.